Hello, everyone. Hello, hello, hello.
We're back.
We are back. The camera overheated, so we had to restart everything. But here we are again. We are talking specifically about feminism.
Yeah.
And what we don't like about feminism and why feminism is not the right move for America, for the world, for women, for men, for the family, for everything.
Yeah. And we had started talking about first wave feminism, I guess, in 1880 something or other, when it was really, when it really became a thing in America and, well, I guess pretty much all around the world. And they were fighting for the suffrage and how it was just never a good thing from the start. So this we're showing a few political cartoons from that time that were anti-suffrage. Everybody works but mother. She's a suffragette. It's so funny, the guy washing the dishes and taking care of the baby. Oh, and this is where it gets really good. I want to vote, but my wife won't let me.
Can you show the whole thing?
Yeah, I'm trying to see.
Oh, there you go.
Almost. Yeah, I want to vote, but my wife won't let me.
That's funny.
And it's so funny because this is men today. Like,
Yep.
This is what they were afraid of happening, and it has totally happened, this reversal of roles, really.
Yes, it's true. That we mentioned that earlier about how nowadays it's like normal for men to be sissies.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the result of feminism. Not third wave, not second wave, first wave. From the get-go, this is what they wanted.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And then just this little...
You sent it to your Instagram?
Yes.
Okay.
This one too. Just this imagery of the man holding the baby, feeding the baby.
Aww.
It's funny.
Will you scroll down a little bit? What does it say?
I think that was just... I don't
old?
think... Yeah, it's not really like... Whatever. But... I just think it's so interesting because this is what they were afraid of. They were afraid of that role reversal and of women wanting to leave their posts just over the right to vote.
Devil's advocate.
Uh-oh.
Why is this bad? What's wrong with this? What's wrong with men feeding their children?
Well, there's nothing inherently wrong with a man giving his baby the bottle, but this is implying that he is forced to take care of the baby because the mother, who that's actually her job to take care of the baby, she has given up her responsibility so that she can go and vote and do this thing that was what the men did.
Well, I think it's also the fact that if you see back then, there was, babies did drink things other than breast milk, but for the vast majority of women, they were breastfed.
Oh, true.
So it's like unnatural for the man to be catering for every time the baby's hungry. Because listen, we have a 3-month-old and that baby hungry all the time. Right now, he's probably crying for some.
He's probably hungry.
Yeah, he's probably hungry.
Sleeping.
And so unless he's sleeping, like, he's probably hungry and he probably wants to get some. So this is like, that's the natural thing for babies, and that's the healthiest thing for babies. If you can't, we're not saying that, it's your fault, whatever. But what we're saying is that that's the natural way that God made it. And so if you just follow the natural way that God made it, if you're able to, you have a better life. And when you have this type of thing going on, where the man is forced to where the question here is not, why is that wrong? Right? Because it, like Sully said, it's not inherently wrong. The question is, where is the wife? Right? Where is the wife, and where is the wife's focus? Where's the mommy? Where's her focus? Is her focus with the family? Is the focus for helping her family out, to bettering the family, to serving her husband, to taking care of the children, or is her focus because she's got to go and be part of the
Share her
industrial
opinion
world?
or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. That's all the cartoons that I have. So basically, if you're a Christian, don't be a feminist. Don't turn your husband into that political cartoon that we just saw. For real though, it's just,
what do you think of
do
the
what
male
God
feminists?
wants you to do.
Did you ever meet a male feminist?
Um,
Did you know I used to call myself a male feminist?
you did not.
Yes, I did. Not often. I think I might have like once or twice. I said I'm a feminist. Honestly, you know why? Because it was a girl that I liked, and she said she was a feminist, and so I was like, I'm a feminist, trying to like the classic beta male, like you're a feminist, I'm a feminist, and so it's gonna score me some points. You know what I'm saying? Like that's gonna score me some points. I mean, you're gonna want to be with me. And then she was like, well, good. I mean, all people should be. And then I was like, well, that didn't work. Like I thought it was gonna score me some points.
I think a lot of people just really don't know what feminism really truly is. And I think if they did, they would not want to. A lot more people would not want to, identify as a feminist.
Well, what do you have you ever met a male feminist?
I don't know. Not anybody that I know, I've never heard them call themselves male feminists. But I do know of some people that are more feminist in their thinking. I don't know if that makes sense.
But you've never heard like a guy be like,
I've heard guys do that, but like on the internet.
Okay, but you never met in person a guy that you knew was a male feminist.
I mean, not that I can think of. I have bad memory.
Well, because I think like me back in the day, it was fake. I said that because I thought like they would say the same thing they say to everyone. Feminism is just all about choice, right? If it's just all about basically, if you're not a misogynist, you're a feminist. That's all it is. And so I was like, so I guess I'm a feminist. And then they're like, oh, but then that's not good enough. You like that should be the norm, right? And then I was like, all right, you guys are taking it a bit too far. And that's when I realized, oh, yeah, I'm just doing this for points. If I'm doing this for points and I don't actually believe in all the trash that they say, then I'm not a feminist. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm literally not a feminist. And so that's when I grew up. I was like, I'm not a feminist. This is not a thing. Yeah. And I think that might have been it. I think that might have been, I think there were a couple times where I said that. And then after that, I realized, I'm not a beta male, or at least I'm like,
machismo.
I'm a macho man. I much prefer I realized that later on that I much prefer to be in control than to be the guy who's like a puppy and then that lets the woman be in control. That's basically honestly what it comes down to. And so I think the feminists have a point when they say all you want to do is just control women. Yes. Yeah. Yes, we do want to control women because we don't
want them to be out of control.
Right. We don't want them to be out of control. Just like we don't want men to be out of control. Right. And so we control them with laws. We control them with societal pressure, with Christian communities and families where it's like, if you do something that's terrible, you're ostracized. That's normal. That's good. That's a good thing. And so, yes, we want to control women to do the right thing, just like we want to control men to do the right thing. So, I think they have a point in that. Like I said, it's like feminists understand the order, but instead of saying it, let's fix the root issue, which is there's good and evil. There's good and evil in men and in women, and let's fix that. Let's go and address that. Instead of saying that, they go, no, the evil is the whole system in itself. The whole creation of God is evil. And so we must change the nature of how God made things. I mentioned that earlier, but I think that's the point that feminists make. And that's when I realized, oh, okay, I would much rather be who God made me to be, because I was so broken down in spirit by the women who would always say, oh, like you have to do this, you have to do that. And I was honestly tired of listening to women. I was like, done. I'm like, I don't want to listen to you. You are, it was just that attitude that we spoke of earlier, where you would be the women would come and be like, you must do that, like that nagging attitude. Like I was so done with that type of female that I'm like, I that was forced upon me. That was normal. And if I felt any negative against that attitude, I was a
Misogynist.
misogynist. So then I'm like, okay, then I would rather be a misogynist than not, you know? And so, but in their eyes, because we know that um, the real hatred of women is way different than that. You know, it's not understanding the order of God. It looks entirely different.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were gonna. That was it.
No, I was just saying, yeah, it's
So
true.
yeah, so you can't think of any male feminists that you, or maybe even online.
Am I supposed to?
Well, I was hoping you would say
Am
a
I
story
supposed
like
to
this.
name drop?
No, not name drop. I would thought I thought you would say something like, oh yeah, I remember this one dude and he said this and I thought it was so gross. I thought that you would say something like that. But you're like, no.
No, but I remember that vegan you showed me yesterday that was saying
Oh,
all the
yeah.
places you can get, all the things you can get vitamin B12 from. He literally said toothpaste. Didn't he say toothpaste?
I think so.
And he was like dancing on the stairs. I was
And
like,
he was dancing like a
Lord have
female.
mercy. It was pretty disturbing.
Yeah.
He's probably a male feminist.
Yes.
Oh, for sure.
Yep. Yeah, see people like that. And honestly, like I'm not ashamed of having been that person before because I'm not that person. And I was never feminine to that extent, but when I was a teen, it's like I couldn't place the two together. What was in my nature and what society had told me from the time that I was very young to be. They always told it's the opposite of what they tell women. Society tells you that you have to get married and that you have to have children, but I'm here to tell you that all you have to do is go and be yourself and have some fun and love yourself and not worry about that stuff, right? Well, in reality, that's not true. Society tells you that all the time. They never tell you should get married, and we want to come back to that, right? For men, they tell you, no, it's a bad thing for you to be this, for you to be that. It's a bad thing for you to want to be a man. So they tell you that over and over and over and over until you're hit with the head over with the head, right?
Well, I just had a thought about male feminists real quick, and I just thought like feminism in many ways, even though they hate men and they talk about men are, domestic animals, whatever, it is really beneficial for men too because it does promote promiscuity and you don't have to be committed.
Yeah, well,
to
beneficial
sleep around.
for
And
bad men.
Yeah, for bad men. And I think that's probably one of the big areas, like if women have the right to choose, then you don't have to have that fear of having the responsibility of taking care of a child or, having a child out there in the world that, you'll have to father,
Mm-hmm.
So, I can see why some men would call themselves feminists. But other than that, I can't see why a man would want to call himself a feminist.
It's all to gain points with the female so that they can sleep with them.
Yeah.
That's all it is. It's nothing more than that. It's just to gain some points so that they can end up being like, oh. So you want to answer those questions now?
Yes, we had a few questions, and if you're watching this and you have any other questions, just leave it in the question box. But
In the chat.
In the chat. But this question was, this is really interesting. Do you guys think feminism has a place in third world and non-Christian countries? I think that's really interesting because Andre was born and raised is it third world?
Yeah.
In a third world country. And he grew up in the orphanage. No, just kidding. No,
Racism.
He did not. But we talked about this before too, because
Yes.
Increasingly women are feminists over there.
The thing is that they have been psyoped into believing that every suffering caused by men that women have to endure, that the answer to that is feminism. Mm-hmm. So I think that's why it's a great question. Is like, does feminism have a place anywhere else? Well, let's see where feminism has been implemented, and let's see what the effects of that are, right? And people wrongly assume that the effects of feminism are what we see in the prosperity of America. In the, it's like, no. Those are not the effect of feminism. That's not feminism that did that. America was very prosperous prior to any of the first wave, second wave, and all of that. So now we see that the effects of feminism are terrible, and so therefore, what can we actually do? And the answer is what I mentioned before. It's making sure that you make the distinction between good and evil. That's the answer. It's not let's implement feminism. It has no place. It shouldn't have it in place in the world. It should have a place where there's harsh consequences for sin, and also societal consequences for acts that shouldn't be done. And so when there's a man that goes and gets drunk and beats his wife, there should be societal pressure as well as laws that make it so that it's shameful for a man to do that, and that there's actual repercussions for a man to do that. The answer is not to let's give women more power. That's not the answer. The answer is let's make people accountable for their actions. Evil men exist just like evil women exist, and so we have to make sure that they're both accountable.
There are no evil women, Andre. We are all perfect and beautiful just the way we are.
Yep.
But yeah, that is a very interesting discussion about the third world country. And what about, I guess, non-Christian countries? Is that the same? Because we all have non-Christian countries. They ask, does feminism have a place in those as well?
They asked that?
Yeah. I mean, I don't
in
really.
Which countries?
Countries.
Like Muslim countries?
I was about to say, maybe that.
Yeah, I mean, non-Christian countries, I think, are the majority of countries, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, of course, it would have the same way. Obviously, it would look very different because, like a Muslim country, it would be a lot more traditional. But in many ways, I mean, we that gets into politics a little bit, because then you start thinking about, okay, what are the effects of their culture? But is it their culture, or is it their culture mixed in with, the globalist agenda and the imperialist United States and British agenda that they imposed on these countries? So you start to think, I start to think about more of like a political aspect, and why these countries are the way they are from a political aspect as well as a societal
towards
aspect.
Women.
Yeah, not just towards women, but like in general, right? Because prior to like religious extremism, when it comes to Muslim countries, for example, prior to the involvement of America, they didn't actually exist in that way. Like a lot of these countries in the Middle East were actually very secular, in the good sense of the word, not in the bad sense. Like basically not religious extremism. And it wasn't until America got involved that they became extremely radical religious, because they needed a force so big to be able to fight against America. So, and I'm not saying that's a good or wrong thing. I'm just saying these things matter when when you consider all these things.
Yeah.
We have a great comment here. It says, I grew up in Colombia. Colombia, arepa. Juanes y Shakira. It was third world. Camilo? No.
Yeah.
Is he from Colombia?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know.
I think so.
I thought he was from Venezuela, like his wife, but I guess not.
I don't think so.
I think he's Colombian, right? It's very much traditional about Colombia, and more on a straight path than here in the USA. Women tend to be at home, take care of the kids and her husband. The fathers work. Fathers tend not to want to get married, though. They also have some lack of responsibility with drinking and spending money. That's what I saw where I lived. Yeah, I mean, it's the same in Guatemala. I mean, the problems look differently, and I think when it comes to men, there should be accountability. And I just know that the answer is not feminism. The
answer is not saying, okay, well, women need to make sure that they have a career or they have a degree just in case their husband leaves them. And that's the type of things, the type of mindset that a lot of women tend to gravitate towards in these countries. There's a lot of fear about the husband leaving them, and the husband going rogue, and the husband cheating on them.
Right.
And so because of those things, the woman needs to make sure she has a career, and she can't just be a housewife.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't solve anything. That makes things worse, because the family no longer has that solid foundation of, okay, the husband's going to provide, the mom's going to take care of the kids, and you just can't just say, okay, well, the mom just needs to go off and work,
Do her own thing just in case.
Yep. It's like Andre said, it's like, no, in the case of adultery, there's no it's not illegal, obviously. I don't know, maybe it should be. I don't know how you would put a law on that. But, like Andre was saying, that societal pressure of, bro, like, don't do that to your wife. And obviously that doesn't happen overnight, but neither does feminism being implemented, to every single woman. So why don't you just go for the choice that's better, that has better results, which is, bro, don't cheat on your wife. What's wrong with you?
Yeah. And I think on the other part, that the women in these countries are also not blameless.
Oh, no.
They manipulate in different ways, but they still manipulate.
Oh, yeah.
And I can't tell you how many times.
That's the fault of the women. They think that the women in these third world countries are just so innocent. Like, they just tripped and they looked up and they were married to an abusive man. And they have, like, that's it.
Yeah. And there are certain cultures that where that women have no say in that, or at least very little say. But it has so much to do with, like, the family dynamics and cultural aspects. And I think that a lot of time, like, from what I've seen, a lot of places where this happens, people in these villages, they almost prefer that. And then people like us, we come there and we try to sell them this idea of, like, no, we have the answer to your problem. And they're like, what problem? Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I mean, you can touch on all of that, poverty and so many different things.
Yeah, I have another, just one more question. So how should we as Christian parents in the modern age raise our sons and daughters to be different than the world and to be godly men and women? More is caught than taught, for one.
What do you think?
More is caught than taught.
More. What do you think besides that?
I think first of all, it's important to show your children, like I was saying, your children have to see it, and they have to see it joyfully, and they can't see hypocrisy. And when you mess up, you have to say, like, I'm sorry, like, do you forgive me? Ask for forgiveness. Because all of those things make an impact. You can be like the most perfect, quote unquote, like, housewife, where you homeschool your kids and your husband's the provider, but if you have a nagging attitude about it, or you always want to complain or compare yourself to the moms that are working, like, your kids are gonna take that in, and that's gonna manifest itself in their lives in one way or another. So just having a completely different attitude about life in general than a lot of people have, where you're giving, God the credit and the glory and the honor for, your life, and you're not complaining, and you're grateful, even in the hard times, even when it's difficult.
I feel like I'm gonna cry now. Even hard times. What was the question?
How should we, as parents in the modern age, raise our sons and daughters to be different?
Yeah, I think Sully made the best point there, which was you model it, number one, first and foremost. Yeah, you model it joyfully. I think that summarizes it, because you can, I think it's still good to mention things and say, this is what we believe in this home, and this is what you believe in this home. Mm-hmm. Not that whole thing when people say, well, I let them choose what they want to believe. I don't want to force anything now. No.
In this household, you want to be under this roof?
We're going to force you to believe certain things. Now, if you're an adult and you go on your own, you believe whatever you want to believe. But in my household, this is what we do as a family, right? And I think if they see that in your life and they see that you joyfully live that out, there's going to be no reason why they don't want to do that. Because what happens is that a lot of people preach about, read your Bible, be a Christian, pray and be a good kid, and then they see that their parents are like cussing each other out, that they're angry all the time and they're going crazy, and then they're like surprised when their kids don't want to be that. I always ask that question when I hear people say, I've heard now quite a few men talk to me and they say, I grew up and I was an atheist. I became an atheist in my teens. And so I asked them why. It's like, well, I grew up like my parents were Christian. And I'm like, okay, well, how was that relationship? What did you see from them? Every single time they say they would fight and yell, they'd be cussing each other out. And then they go to church and they would pray and they would smile and they would go like this. And then they would go to lunch and then we would be yelling at each other and cussing at each other again. And I'm like, well, of course, why would they want to be a Christian when they grow up seeing these types of attitudes? When they grow up seeing this, what makes them want to be a Christian? The example is terrible. But if they see you joyfully living these things out, by the time that they're teenagers, they start to connect the dots and they say, oh, I want to live like that too. I want to be like my daddy. I want to be like my mommy.
Yeah. And I think that's just like the overall, I mean, obviously you could get into a lot of different things, like you can do this specific thing and that, but that's just in general the main way, train up a child, and when they're old they will not depart from it. So especially ingraining those principles into them when they are young.
Yep. We have one more. I'm taking my kiddo out of public school and going to the homeschooling. I'm going to be homeschooling for next year and so on. I'm so excited to do it.
Wow, it's exciting.
Amazing. Congratulations. Yeah, we totally believe in homeschooling. We totally believe in
not public school.
Yeah, and making sure that your kids are taken care of and that your priority is your children. I think that's one of the things, I guess, to close it out. One of the things that I really want to harp on is that people forget about the children in all these circumstances. All they talk about is the men and the women's rights, but women are adults. The children have no say. They have nothing to hold on to. You are their authority and responsibility. The Georges
we answered it.
Yes,
so when we post this, you can go back and listen to it.
Yes. So basically, when you make your decisions as a wife and as a husband, you should consider your children as a priority. How is this going to affect my children's future? How is this going to affect their upbringing? And not their monetarily, which is what most people think about first. They think, how am I going to make my child have money? That's not what it's about, y'all.
How can I have the nicer things?
That is not what it's about. Is there a place for feminism in third world and non-Christian countries? Yes. Thanks. Okay. Yes. Thank you so much, the George's Habib podcast, for your question. Thank you, everyone else. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we will have clips of this clipped out, posted on TikTok. Follow us on TikTok at Andre and Soli, and follow us on our channel, Ray Andre Soli. And also, this is going to be the last podcast episode that we do on this channel. We're going to have the Andre O Show. Soli's still going to join me weekly, but I'm going to be posting a lot more on that channel as my own show. We're going to have other guests, and it's going to be real, real fun. So make sure you keep an eye out for that. Make sure you drop a like, because it helps us a ton when you drop a like and a comment. And if you like it, share it. Let us know what you guys want us to talk about.
Alrighty, bye, everybody.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye. See you guys.